Great pleasure to introduce David Braam. From my opinion, one of the most talented coders in the community. Employed at Ultimaker since 2 years. I think it was the best single news item I've ever heard in the community when I heard that they hired him, because I think it was a good decision, and it brought CURA forward, and hopefully David is still positive about Ultimaker. Are you?
Of course, I still am.
Perfect. So enjoy the show. Don't worry.
Thank you. Well, welcome all. I'm David Braam from Ultimaker, and I see I have a mouse cursor. Why am I here? I am here to tell you something. I'm here to tell you that open source is better. Open source is working for 3D printing right now. It's producing better quality machines for lesser money. But why? Well, first, we need to know what is open source. Open source, there's a lot of technical terms, but in the end, open source, you can describe it as opening up your source code to everyone, but that's not really what it's about. Open source is about sharing. Sharing what you know, sharing what you do to everyone. So you make available your information to as many people as possible. It's about freedom, giving everybody access to do whatever they want, how they want to do it. And in the end, that gives everybody power. And that's what we're seeing right now here on the whole floor, that everybody is gaining more control of their machines, doing more stuff, making new and interesting things. Who am I, and why am I in this position to tell you this? Well, I have a bachelor degree in embedded engineering. I got it about 7 years ago, and that makes me an engineer. I know both electronics and software, and I sit somewhere in between. So what I'm doing today is not really something I'm doing every day. I spent 5 years working at a traffic light company, working on Linux systems, really open source products, from drivers to web interfaces. I just did just about anything. And that changed about 3 years ago. That's what I got on Ultimaker, which is what changed my life, really. Because only short 3 years ago, I got this wooden box which produced really crappy plastic stuff. And from there, I created something called CURA. And some people will know it, some people might not know it. I will highlight on it a bit later, because this is an important bit for me, called CURA. 2 years ago, Ultimaker, just like Florian said, hired me to continue development of CURA, and that's how I stand here today. So once again, open source is better. Why can I tell you this? Now, well, let's just look at the 3 years ago when I bought this printer. I had two options. I could go for Replicator G, developed by MakerBot, in combination with SKEINFORGE, which was free, or for the Ultimaker NetFab engine, which cost me 150 euros. And frankly, I didn't have a lot of money, so I went for the free option. The free option provided me this. This is actually every configuration setting in SKEINFORGE. And I was getting really crappy prints out of my Ultimaker, and I knew it was possible to get really good prints out of my Ultimaker, because I've seen the photos, and I knew it was not the machine. So I spent a good few months figuring out these 260 configuration settings. What the hell was going wrong? something was not right. So I created today CURA, which was originally SKEINFORGE, but instead of 260 settings, only 30. So today we have CURA, which was built on top. This is actually CURA about 2 years ago, and this is CURA today. It looks a tiny bit different, but it is a lot different. 2 years ago, that CURA, the top one, was built on top of SKEINFORGE. It was still using the same slow process. It just configured those 260 settings properly with only a few settings at the top. The bottom one, which is something I created a year ago, is no longer using SKEINFORGE, but my own code, which is faster, produces better quality prints. I have more control of how the print is actually produced. But I could never done it in a million years without this. Because this learned me how 3D printing worked. So this open source product was very important to me. So today I have this CURA, but I have, and everybody actually doesn't have to thank me, they have to thank everybody else that came before that. And that's how you can see that old open source products make new, better open source products, and thus open source makes better. Because if everything was closed, I could have never built this on my own. That's one thing. I'm one guy. Just me built this for everyone. So today we have CURA, but we also have Slicer. We have Matterform. We have Repetier Host. And these are all products built on top of multiple open source projects. They all wouldn't have been possible without people putting effort in open source and saying, well, I'm not developing this just for me. I'm developing this for everyone so everyone can benefit. And there are a lot more. I don't know them all because I'm just one man. But we have more. We have stuff like Octoprint. And I think Gina is sitting here. I don't know. Octoprint actually started off as with parts of CURA. She basically picked off some bits of CURA that she needed to make network printing possible. Same for Doodle 3D. I don't know if anyone knows it. It's a very small Wi-Fi box which you can use to make really simple doodles. That's actually based on code that I open sourced about 2 years ago. Now, BotQ is another example. It's using a lot of open source other products just to get where it needs to be. Peer-to-print is a Kickstarter which is running right now, which is using Slicer, CURA, SKEINFORGE just to produce a new product, really. Sprinter and Marlin are two very prime examples of which is almost every printer in here is running some variation of. And that's without that final project, none of you would be printing today. And there are more. I don't know them. Like I said, there are more projects than I can follow. So, once again, open source is better because it produces more variety in products. Octoprint, it wouldn't have been possible without earlier projects of CURA, and CURA wouldn't have been possible without SKEINFORGE. So I wouldn't have a job, Gina wouldn't have a job, and that's just one example. One other thing I want to highlight is this is the users. Users of any type of software, you have users. And in users, you always have a group of advanced users. These advanced users are very important. These advanced users, they provide you with ideas. Both the groups, both users and advanced users, provide new ideas for your software, always. You cannot think of every single idea yourself. That would be madness. Just to thinking that you're God or something, that you can think of everything. So you need those ideas. But once you go open source, and especially if you go free or open source, because this also, you get more users, you get more advanced users, and you get more ideas. So you get, in the end, better software for everyone. And with that, with better software, you can stay ahead of everyone else who's not doing this. And there's one final thing which confuses some people that try to go open source but don't fully understand it, and that's this green spec. And that green spec is that users that provide actual code contributions. If you go open source, then you say, this is my source code, everybody can modify it. Only this tiny bit actually does this. Everybody else is benefiting from it, but don't expect a large amount of people modifying your code. They don't do that. They just want to use it. And it's this very small group, but very important group, because they are centered in advanced users, which have a lot of technical depth. They know how stuff works, and they have the ideas. So they provide you with very concrete, interesting, new stuff that you have to filter, because not every contribution is a good one. So that's open source. It's better, because it gives you more. It gives you better software. It gives you more ideas, more improvements for your software. It gives you more users, which results in those more ideas. It gives you more diversity. Like in the start, we had all those different projects which were based on the initial project, on just SKEINFORGE, really. Everything else is based on that. It gives you lower costs because, like I said, I'm just one guy. You know what one software developer costs? I know. You know what 10 costs? 10 times as much. So with just one software developer, Ultimaker is advancing 3D printing for everyone. It bootstraps new innovation, like you see in Octoprint, like Doodle 3D, BotQ. It's all kind of new. It's not finished yet. People are still working on it, but there are new ideas, new technologies that are developed for tomorrow. And they still need to be crystallized in final products. But they will be. And there's a lot of market there. And like I said, more users leads to more advanced users, leads to more ideas, leads to more technical depth. What I've noticed with CURA is that the more users I'm getting, the more people that I've noticed that know how the 3D printing process works. They know how plastics work. They know things that I couldn't even dream of knowing. And because they see that I share that information with everyone, they're willing to share that information with me. In the end, it gives you just better products. And a warm, fuzzy feeling of sharing because, well, if you share stuff and you're human, and really that gives a warm, fuzzy feeling. Just try it. So, what will the future hold? I don't know. I know what the future holds for CURA, something like this. But I don't know what the future holds for 3D printing. I cannot tell you that. To know what will happen in the future, I need to know all the ideas of everyone, and my mind is not big enough for that. So I'm just concentrating on this piece of CURA. And yes, this is new. This is actually a photoshopped screenshot, so sorry. But it is something I'm working on. That was a lot of information in a very short time. Are there questions right now? The guy in the blue. Yes.
Hello. Okay. Sharing information, there's a lot of benefit to that. But just a curiosity question. When you are sharing all this information and developing new ideas and new concepts, is there a possibility that larger companies with a lot more money can take those ideas, make them their own a little bit, and then with copyright actually control those ideas into the future?
You're talking about patents?
Yeah, correct.
Right. Well, in this case, I'm talking about software, and in Europe, software patents are still not valid as far as I know.
Okay.
But also there's actually, I don't know exactly what it's called right now, but there is a consortium, I think, which has a lot of software patents and is willing to put those behind open source projects as a defense mechanism.
Okay, cool.
Against patents.
Okay.
So if you go open source, then there is a defense.
Okay, cool. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? What can we expect? What can we expect from the next release of CURA? Well, what can we expect? That's a very good question. What we can expect in the future is easier use. And then I'm talking about stuff like, right now you're selecting things like layer thickness, infill amounts, and that's actually not what you want. What you want, in most cases that I've talked to, is I want my print to take 5 hours. And then CURA will tell me you're getting about this quality. So that's one of the things that I'm working on, and it is a difficult problem, is instead of telling the software I'm going to use these settings, tell him I want to print for this amount of time, and tell me what the result will be. And it's a difficult problem, but it can be solved. I'm working on it, and I haven't written any code on it, but it's in my head how to solve it. Can you give the microphone to?
Oh, yes. Okay, it's better now. Would that also include the kind of auto-orientation if you have complex models in regards to support? So normally you have to if you use CURA, you have to do that manually. Say, okay, let's try this 90 degrees rotation. But what I'm a lot of times face is there might be an optimal position of the thing in the 360-degree area, which needs as little as support as possible. So it's a kind of minimization of support through optimal orientation in X, Y, Z.
That's actually an interesting idea. I haven't thought about it yet. And I actually haven't heard about it yet. So that's
my contribution.
That's exactly the type of ideas that I'm talking about. It's not just code contribution. It's these kind of ideas that really help advancing software. And this is a bit of a difficult problem, but who knows? I don't think it will be in the first release.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Yes? No. Jeremy, you're asking what kind of drawbacks there are to open source. Well, the biggest drawback that I usually see is fear. People fear of going open source because they fear losing control. I've never seen anyone lose control of an open source project. Ever. And I've seen a lot of open source projects. So, don't fear. What you can have is, what you will have, everyone will have, is leeches. People that will just copy your software and use it. Is that a really big problem? No, because you get this picture, you get more users. So in the end, you get better software, even though someone else is also using it. And because you are in control of the software, you will always provide a better version than anyone who copies it. But I don't know everything, so maybe there are more.
Yeah, sorry. Regarding maybe motivation or self-esteem in some case, are there some kind of wrong ways or wrong paths that you can start? I was thinking about some people that kind of ends in a tower and don't want to, well, they control their software, they don't want to lose or to share because they are kind of personified project.
Sorry, I have a tough time hearing you.
It would be like you have your own project and you are CURA and CURA is your, for example. Would it be possible to share or I think like it's difficult with open source project to share really the management of the software. You still need some kind of head on this project.
You usually have a driving force or a sort of a top position in an open source project, yes. So in this case, that's me, because frankly, my project, if you look at all the open source projects, is really small. But if you look, for example, at the Linux kernel, which is a project of 14 million lines of code or something, there's a whole hierarchy with Linus on top and a lot of people in a tree structure beneath that, and it's all built on trust, because you cannot. That trust is all you have, and it's what you earn.
That's exactly for me the big difference between open source and closed source is that when you're closed source, you have a boss actually, and he dictates the hierarchy. Whereas in open source, you have to deal with that also in addition to your work as a programmer.
Yeah, what Jeremy is saying here is that in open source you have this tree of trust, so to say, while if you go closed source, or if you are a closed source developer, you don't have this tree of trust. You have the boss above you who dictates what happens. Well, for some people it might be frightened not to have this boss. Well, I still have a boss because I work at Ultimaker. And my boss can still tell me, you should do this or that. So I actually have two hierarchies right now. I have a work hierarchy and I have an open source hierarchy. But that doesn't make it any more difficult, for me at least. Because my project is relatively small, so my hierarchy is relatively small. And my boss stands behind open source. So he understands that I need this freedom to do what I want to do. And that it will result in a better product at the end.
One more question. You're the brainchild behind CURA, and
no, that's not. Don't call me the brainchild behind CURA.
You're a driving force.
You are all the brainchilds behind CURA, because I couldn't have done it without a lot of information from everyone.
Okay, you are a driving force with CURA.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And my question is, as CURA gets more popular, as other 3D printing users use CURA because it becomes much more flexible, stable, faster, better. If it came to a question where your company, Ultimaker, decided to say, okay, we could actually start selling this product, would you stay, or would you say that wasn't the start and that's not the meaning?
When I joined Ultimaker, and I've told this at smaller meetings to people, and I'm telling this once again now, if Ultimaker decides to try to close source CURA, I will be gone from the company.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yes. And I will be taking the source code with me. So
it's not a question. I just want to get into the discussion. I think open source is not necessarily free. So it doesn't mean if you have to pay for something or if it's open source. It's a different part. But
oh yes, you can make paid for open source products, and that's my laptop going to standby. Nothing to worry about. Because, for example, we had at the very start, we had a few of these. Both for example, peer-to-print is actually a printing service which is kickstarting right now, which will enable you to print from anywhere through the internet. And they are open source, and they're also a paid service. And in this case, it's a service which needs to be hosted, so you're paying for the hosting and for the maintenance and stuff like that. But open source does not have to mean free. It usually does, but it doesn't have to be. Yes. In the back, That's true. That's true. What you're saying is that closed source doesn't necessarily cost money. But if you're giving it away for free, why not open source it as well? Because then you get extra benefits. Everything is relative, yes. If you define better as paying more taxes, then a good steak needs a lot of money. A good steak needs a lot of money. Depends on what you define of good.
So good and better is always very, very difficult. And you use a lot of these pictures, and that's difficult because it's always a question of definition.
Yes.
So that's all I want to say.
Personally, I think that you should meet later on and discuss it in more detail.
I would love that actually, because I do not want to go. I do not walk away from discussions, and I take a very aggressive stand here right now with a very bold statement, maybe even, and I do that, of course, for a reason. I know the world is not as black and white as I portray it.
Do you have any experience with closed software?
With closed software?
Closed slicer software.
You mean like Kiss Slicer or MakerBot? I have used the Kiss Slicer. I've looked at the MakerBot software. But I try to remain open towards all options, and I'm always a bit feared that if I look at something closed, that at some point it will come to haunt me that, oh, you've stolen this from us. And as long as I don't look at it, they cannot blame me for stealing it because I don't know it.
So you avoid that booth? You avoid that MakerBot booth?
I don't avoid it because there's this guy standing in there and he loves Ultimaker. Sorry.
special meaning, or is it just a brand name? Or
CURA, actually, I didn't come up with that name. It was sourced by the users. I didn't have a proper name for it at the start. And then when I released 2 versions, and I was like, well, I need a proper name for this project. And I just crowdsourced it, so to say. And I had this very long list, and CURA was one of the better.
Okay. And do you think to make in the future like 2 versions, which is one is really easy to use and you can't do many details or stuff, and one product which is like more for the pro users? Or do you think about I keep all in one? So
I'm trying to keep all in one, and it's actually this picture. What we're working towards, and I actually have a help of an interaction designer these days, just that really helps, is providing easier use for the basic users, but providing more advanced options in the same program for the advanced users, which will, in the end, provide with better default settings, so to say, for the basic users. So that's that's a complex problem. But I'm working on providing that, because that's one of those things with the slider that I told about with the time. Just so you select how long will this print take. That requires a lot of information from more advanced users.